Well, don't minimize the importance of project kickoff meetings. So the do's of this would be prepared to have a project kickoff meeting at the start of every single project. All these kickoff meetings should be working meetings. You should have all your forms prepared prior to the meeting to collect all the key information. The information, some of the information you want to ensure you collect at this meeting will be all the stakeholders, all their roles, all their information, their emails, their phone numbers, everything you can find out about them. You want to keep that on one single individual form. You want to know who from the customer will be actively involved and even who will not be actively involved but will be interested in the program itself. And also identify your single point of contact with that customer. Ensure that you identify each member of your project team at this time and do the same, give the customer the same courtesy. Fill out that same form for them. Ensure that you read the scope of work at this meeting. Ensure each team member and the stakeholders fully understand every deliverable. Identify any risks that may arise during the meeting. Some of the risks you might see would be like scope creep. Often that's very identifiable at this time. Customers often don't agree with the scope of work, though somebody within their corporation has written it. Be prepared to talk about the project impact if scope creep is identified. You want to let them know what each possibility is going to happen and how the scope creep is going to affect the overall project. You also want to start your timeline during this meeting. You may not complete it during the meeting, but you at least want to get it started so that the customer knows that you're actively interested and you're prepared to start rolling. Ensure the project team and the stakeholders give a full buy-in before you conclude the meeting. If there is any issues or any questions, you absolutely have to have them addressed during this kickoff meeting. Don't sweat the small stuff. Do recognize that problems exist. Not all problems are going to require immediate action within a project. Some won't require any action at all, just careful monitoring. Large and urgent problems will require immediate attention, effective action. Large problems often have multiple owners. They involve several resources or large sums of money that can jeopardize the budget specifications, resources, and scheduling. They also take a lot of time to resolve. Small and non-urgent problems often just take care of themselves as the project moves forward. Small problems often can be solved quickly with minimal resources. Non-urgent problems can be deferred until later without impact to the project, the client, or the company. Keep in mind, all safety problems must be addressed immediately to avoid death, injury, destruction, and lawsuits. Also, most problems are predictable, so try to predict what problems you're going to have ahead of time. Problems and change go together. Change always can cause problems. Be prepared for that. Change handled skillfully might solve a lot of problems, though. Be honest in your assessment of project problems and document these appraisals. Keep all problems and all issues on a separate individual sheet that you're going to track. You also may want to put that on your project scope sheet if it affects project scope. As soon as you know something is wrong, tell your boss, tell your client, let everybody know immediately. Do not wait. Waiting when there's an issue just causes more issues, even no matter how large or how small the problem is. Don't always think that a delayed project is only the customer's issue. Oftentimes the customer puts a date out there to start a project and the date gets pushed back to maybe a week or two or even a month later. That's not necessarily going to be the customer's issue. What do you do if you can't get your problem started? You need to reanalyze the priority for the project. Does the project really need to be completed? What's the impact of starting late? Do the stakeholders really buy into this project? There's often a reason why this project is starting late. You need to identify that. If the project needs to be completed to a fixed schedule, communicate the problem and effect to the customer. Adjust your timing to the new start date. Decide what will be impacted. Time, money, or quality is always going to be one of the three. Along with the customer, push the project completion date out accordingly. You can't compress the date. The project starts late, communicate it in writing with the new finish date to the management and the project team. Analyze all daily activities to determine whether you're wasting time on stuff that really isn't that important. See if you can compress that date a little bit to still make the original timeline. Never assume that people will be available if the dates do slip. Always need to ensure that your team and that the customer's team is going to be available at that time. It's so important not to try to do everything yourself. Do not try to do it all yourself. Do keep a strong, updated timeline with each task and activity clearly identified. Delegate these activities and involve other people in a prioritization and the assignment of the work. Eliminate any unnecessary work. Skip tasks that just don't count. Say no when someone asks you to add tasks to interfere with the project priorities. Change the priorities for work, but do this only after communicating this change to other people on a project and to your customers. Enlist additional resources only when necessary. Enlisting additional resources causes additional cost impact, shows a lack of proper planning. It can often cause issues due to bringing resources up to speed. Last but not least, work longer hours, but only do it as a last resort. Don't knock yourself out. You don't want your team or yourself suffering from burnout. Projects often last for several months, even years. You need to be able to be healthy throughout the whole project. Don't draw on reports. Don't close off communication in lieu of a report. Don't bog your project down in paperwork with too many reports. Reports often impact schedules, often impacts quality, it impacts team motivation. Make a list of all the reports being produced for the project, who is responsible for them, what is the content. Review each report, make sure it's necessary, make sure it's not being repeated on another report that somebody else is doing. Are the reports simple? Do they convey the necessary information? Any of those questions are a no. You probably don't want that report. Eliminate all non-value reports. Visit critical team members to convey information in person on a regular basis and continue to do so. Document the visit and note the discussion. It doesn't always have to be a report. Meet with people informally. Ask how the project is going. Informal meetings often result in honest communication, also known as management by walking around. And unless you're really in a meeting, you have to keep that door open. Your people have to know that you're available. They have to know that they can come and talk to you at any time. Don't underestimate the impact of rushing something. Do realize that implementing a crash schedule to get products out faster or to generate needed revenue doesn't come without a price. The price might be quality, could be resources, it could even just be good enough tasks. Oftentimes, it's personal burnout and quality of life issues. Once you start causing those, you're going to start losing people. Always consider faster alternatives to finish a project, though. Consider the trade-offs in terms of business priorities, the use of priorities, the cost of getting things done faster, and the additional resources that may be required. Communicate the new timeline, track the timeline visually, and reward people for quality work under the circumstances. Don't be fooled by a 90% complete schedule. Realize that often 90% of the effort only takes 30% of the time, and the last 10% of the effort will take 200% of the original schedule. Investigate the scope remaining throughout the meetings or private sessions with key project members. Do the tasks need to be broken down better? Are there technical difficulties? Consider if the remaining 10% of the work is predictable. Creative tasks are hard to schedule and realistically assess. Technology breakthroughs aren't always forthcoming. Realize that this is a stress time. The last 10% is so hard, and you'll need to keep control of your emotions and the actions of the project team. Just as importantly, you need to be able to manage your stakeholders. Encourage open communication with the entire team. Report people for honesty and effort. I can't emphasize that enough. Honesty is everything at this point. Group rewards are demotivators to the elite few. Never give a reward to everybody because a couple guys did all the work or a couple ladies did all the work. Address and control those who are not giving required effort individually rather than as a group blanket statement. You don't want to demotivate your entire team because a couple people are not doing their work properly. Don't make arbitrary changes. Do analyze each change request. Some changes may be necessary, but you need to remain flexible and plan accordingly. Identify the reason for the change. Do the management and customers still buy into the original scope of work and deliverables? Has the goal of the project changed? Are you managing the stakeholders improperly? Make sure the authority for making project changes is clearly documented in the project plan. Ensure proper and complete authorization is given. All appropriate levels of management and all appropriate stakeholders. Identify and communicate all new risks and impacts of the change before you implement. If you decide to make a change, be sure to update the project plan accordingly. Don't diminish the importance of key people. Do keep your key people happy. Talk to them. Know why they're dissatisfied if they are. Do your best to repair the situation. Keep in close personal contact with these key people. At the same time, you want to ensure you cross-train the key people as work on a project goes along. Training for these key people will minimize the impact of losing a person. It'll also allow the key people to take time off and needed breaks and vacations to avoid burnout. Be sure that all your key people are team players. Don't put a person in a position of authority and not have them be a key player. Include key people in all the meetings that may impact their responsibilities, but don't overmeet them. Only include them in the meetings they have to be in. Understand that the key people are often very high maintenance. Usually they're prima donnas, but they're there because they are good. Ensure that the people are rewarded for their accomplishments. It doesn't always have to be money. It could be additional time off. It could be promotions, but money is always a good way to address it. Watch your costs. Don't allow costs to get out of control. Do forecast all costs and understand the impact of the budget of all costs, regardless of how small or how large. Ensure estimating is done skillfully in a well-disciplined manner. If you need help, you may want to look towards a contractor or somebody outside to help you properly estimate. Plan your budget appropriately. Always look for a less expensive option. Shave costs wherever possible without sacrificing the project or the outcome or quality. Reschedule the budget with project delays. Plan for unforeseen technical problems. Hold your suppliers accountable to material and supply costs. Oftentimes the supplier would like to raise the cost after the order has been placed. You need to hold them accountable to the original prices. Communicate changes in the project scope that aren't reflected in the original budget. You need to work with the customer to acquire additional budget. You need to decide what will be sacrificed. You need to determine the overall impact. You need to control your costs. Monitor expenses using the appropriate accounting controls. Deal with money problems when the problem first appears. Don't wait. Don't put the right person on the wrong bus. This is extremely important. Do develop an objective skills appraisal system to select team members at the beginning of the project. Watch your team to see if too much time is spent in social activities. Train your team during your downtimes. Additional education and OJT could help, but not on the customer's time. Work with the customer to provide a lesser skilled person at a reduced cost, thereby you could get some OJT. A consultant or outside contractor can sometimes make up for differences in skills if needed. You need to look at the cost impact, the motivational impact, and the image to the customer if you do that. Keep in mind the project always takes priority, no matter how much you like a particular person on your team. Keep your reputation intact. Don't just keep people on because you like them, but work with people to allow them the opportunity to find the right bus that they should be on. You're doing them a favor and you're doing the company a favor. Don't overcommit yourself to project requests. Do understand your time allotted. Do understand the prospective projects and the limitations and the issues. Projects stemming from poor plans or lack of support. Projects already in the works that have no hope of completion. Projects with no staff, no hiring budget. Projects underway for more than 6 months with no discernible progress. Projects that assume you will fundraise for them. Projects in which managers are fighting with the upper management to cancel or signify and modify a project, and projects with impossible or unfocused goals. Avoid all those projects. You're oftentimes better to say no and allow your competition to take on a project like that. Realize that some things just won't happen as planned. Document all the risks before a project is approved. Assess all risks. communicate the risk, and properly track and manage and communicate all risks. As soon as you realize a project is impossible, get yourself and get your company out of it ASAP. Sometimes that's after the fact, but you need to work to get out of that. Understand and realize that there are going to be contractual issues. You need to know what the legal ramifications are going to be, and you also need to ensure that your senior management is involved and concurs with the decision to remove your company from the project. Normally, you're going to lose a customer over that. Sometimes you need to just to keep your reputation intact. Don't allow politics to impact the project. Do ignore political attitudes that don't affect the end results of the project. Do understand that some political agendas will start undermining project goals. Just treat the politics as you would any other conflict. Resolve the situation through conflict resolution techniques, manage the risk, and communicate the risk immediately. Keep the project goals in mind and remain focused. Keep your team out of political agendas. Allow them to focus on their tasks and ensure the project continues to move forward at all times and at all costs. This is rather important, and I think it happens too often. Don't dismiss your boss's ideas. Sometimes you don't agree with them. Smile and agree to consider your boss's ideas, no matter how much you disagree. Put the process into practice. Use of the basics is good of the project management. Employ good leadership and common sense when doing this, though. Monitor and track. Give the idea a fair chance to succeed. Report back to your boss with the results of the idea. You may want to abandon and change direction if necessary, but respectfully inform the boss of the reason for abandoning and the new direction. Do realize that your boss is successful for a reason and may often see things through experience. Don't think you know it all. Stephen Covey put down some basic 7 rules for highly effective people, as most people have probably read. Always be proactive. Begin with the end in mind. Envision what you want in the future so that you know concretely what to make a reality. Know what your end of the project is. What is the end goal? Put the first things first. Keep a strong schedule. Keep it for you and for your team. Always think win-win when an issue or a situation comes up. Everyone involved should feel good about the project and the result and any decisions being made. A win for your customer that hurts your company is not a win-win. A win for your company that hurts the customer is also not a win. Ensure both teams win. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. Use empathetic listening to be genuinely influenced by a person. Empathetic listening will influence other people to provide you the same courtesy. Synergize. Combine the strengths of people through positive teamwork. No one can do it all. And last, sharpen the saw. Balance and renew resources, energy, and health to create a sustainable and long-term and effective lifestyle. You have to take the time for yourself. You have to ensure that you're healthy and that you're on track and that your life is going in the proper direction. If you're having issues at home, you need to get them resolved because it will affect the project eventually. And don't forget some basic rules of management. Do talk when you need to give direction or communicate to everyone in the loop. Don't talk just because you need an audience or to stroke your ego for your rhetorical, I can't pronounce the word, sorry, hyperboles. Do make sure you are there when your team needs your support and help. Don't be around when they need some privacy, else you'll look like an uninvited micromanaging maniac. You don't want to look like that. Coach when you feel that your team needs some guidance and when they have asked you for advice. Don't interfere though. If your team knows what they're doing, let them do it. Give your team a chance to speak up when they need to be heard. Don't listen to words that are full of flattery and the lack of validity. Don't let your actions do the talking. Do let your actions do the talking and show your team that you're not just giving them lip service. Don't get overzealous and start to do everything though. Your team is supposed to be doing. Ensure there's fairness in your team and everyone be treated equally. Don't let favoritism or nepotism invade and fester within the team. One of the worst things that can happen. Give credit to your team for their hard work and acknowledge those who have contributed. Don't steal their credit or praise just to glorify your own achievements. Your achievement will be a successful project at the end. Be nice. Treat your team well. But don't be so nice they start to take advantage of your kindness. It's always easier to give, but harder to take it back. Give your team good lectures if needed in order to set the right expectation. Don't scream, insult, bang stuff on the table, and throw cups at everybody. Be positive and provide continuous encouragement and motivation for your team. Don't get overly passionate and start to give empty promises to everybody.